his sister thought that she had some issue going on with her liver. So they took her in, did some scans and stuff on her, and they said that she had liver cancer. It was very aggressive, had lesions. It was going to metastasize. It was going to do everything that you don't want to hear when you go in for a cancer diagnosis. It's like the worst of the worst. What's going to happen? Well, you're going to die, basically. So let's get you in for treatment tonight. And the girl was like, no. Like, I don't want to do it tonight. They went back the next day, and lo and behold, no cancer. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. Today, we're going to be pressing some buttons. There's going to be a trigger warning that's going to be associated with this episode. And I feel like it's a great time for this to be able to come out. We're trying to piggyback this so it fits into the month of October for obvious reasons. We've got a lot of distractions. We've got a lot of things that are going on right now. We're not going to get distracted by those things. But what we are going to talk about is going to be talking about cancer. All right, so October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Susan G. Komen ribbons are everywhere. Pink is everywhere. It used to infiltrate into the NFL. I don't really know if it still has or does at this point, but the bottom line is I want to shed some light on a common topic that a lot of people fear and a lot of people don't quite understand. And so I've had patients who I've been having, consecutive consults with them, and back in the early parts of this year, there was a lot of younger folks in their 30s, 20s that were getting diagnosed with cancer. And so patients were coming to me being like, well, I know so-and-so down there who had cancer. It came out of nowhere. I want to make sure that I don't end up like that as well. So what can you do? What can we do to make sure that I don't end up like that? And so I kind of start things out very simplistically for these patients because all of us fear this diagnosis. We fear this disease because it is a disease that not many people know and understand. And I think that there is a reason to that. There has been an increasing number of cancer rates, so the increasing rate of cancer. Every single year, things keep getting, or diagnosed patients keep getting, more and more and more. The numbers keep getting larger and larger. And what this tells me is that what we are doing as a whole, as a society, as a healthcare system, is we're aggressively failing our American citizens. Okay? So what is it? What the heck is cancer? Right? So when we talk about cancer, I think one of the most simplistic things that we need to know is cancer is an adaptation of our innate intelligence within us that is designed to keep us alive. Okay? Cancer keeps us alive. Say it one more time. Cancer keeps us alive. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Doc, no. Cancer killed my uncle. They killed my mom. It killed this. It killed that. No. Okay? What killed your loved one, your dog, whatever it may be, is poor lifestyle and habits. There's a 5% risk of chance with genes, but the diet and lifestyle are going to influence the epigenetic components of these genes. So we cannot just sit idly back and pretend like, oh, hey, I've got good genes or I've got bad genes, so I'm destined for this. Or, we have a family. This is one that drives me crazy, is I have a family history of cancer. Okay, history of cancer in my family. And so my mom had breast cancer. My grandma had breast cancer. I'm like, okay, so what, two generations? Out of how many generations? Right? It's not a family history, right? Not every single person in your family died of cancer. Not every single person in your family got cancer. Right? And it's not like this modern technology, we're able to detect cancer better than before. No, that's actually not factually true. Mammograms are known. They're infamous for being off, whether it's false positives or false negatives. That's why thermography should be the gold standard, but it's not. Mammograms are the gold standard. For what reason, I'm not quite sure. Okay, so when we think about this, we have to think about it in terms of why did my body or why did your body develop this cancer to begin with? Right? So again, look into the research. 95% of cancer is due to diet and lifestyle. 5% is chalked up to genes, but those genes can also be decoded or turned off when it comes to changing your diet and your lifestyle. And so when you think about this, just simplistically, this means that you actually do have the power within you to decide whether or not you get cancer. And if you do get cancer, it's up to you to decide what you want to do. There's so much fear in keeping you in the unknown and keeping you in the uncertainty. There's so much profit to be made When somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, there's X amount of money that's attached to you. It's like a name tag, like a price tag that's on you. And so that's why they're not boasting. They don't like holistic treatments. They don't at all, because they work incredibly well. They fix the diet and the lifestyle environment, and then you're cancer free. And this might sound insensitive, but I'm sick of I'm grateful that I get to see some of this, but at the same time, it sickens me when I see people ring the cancer-free bell. And to me, it's like you start a timer. How long can I go before this cancer comes back? And so we're going to go through some of these statistics. We're going to go through some of these things. But when we understand that in order for us to survive, our body has to produce cancer because of our toxic environment. Our normal healthy cells cannot live in that environment. Okay? It can't. So what would happen, hypothetically speaking, is if that cell still tried to survive, it still tried to maintain its normal chemical properties, its normal phospholipid bilayers, the normal everything, it would die. It would lyse. It would be a lysis, okay, or apoptosis, a programmed cell death that takes place due to the environment that is within, right? And this could turn into, your arm randomly has a hole in it, and you're like, what the hell happened there? It's like, well, you had melanoma, but instead of your cancer cells turning into a tumor or something on the outside, what they did was actually just they all died off. So now you have a hole in your arm, right? And this sounds extreme, but quite honestly, this is true. This is the truth about cancer, okay? So when we understand it is a normal adaptive mechanism for us, then we get back into the driver's seat, like, okay, cool. So if this is my body trying to protect and survive me, how can I take care of my body to make sure that I don't end up like another statistic of so-and-so who's dying? With the statistics of like 1 in 3 people being diagnosed with cancer, that is a really high statistic. What are you doing to be the 2 out of 3? What are you doing? If we're just sitting by thinking, hey, I just have a ticking time bomb. My mom had cancer when she was 60, and so I'm 55, and so I got 5 more years till I get cancer. Right? As a man thinketh, so is he. If you think you're going to get cancer, guess what? You're going to get it. Your body will actually rewire you to build cancer, just like a cancer diagnosis is designed to fear you or scare you into fear. Okay, and keep you there. There's nothing you can do. Get your affairs in order. Go home, see your family. We start treatment tomorrow. They're so aggressive with their treatment approach. And I'll never forget one of my friends from back home. I won't use any names. His sister thought that she had some issue going on with her liver. So they took her in, did some scans and stuff on her, and they said that she had liver cancer. It was very aggressive, had lesions. It was going to metastasize. It was going to do everything that you don't want to hear when you go in for a cancer diagnosis. It's like the worst of the worst. What's going to happen? Well, you're going to die, basically. So let's get you in for treatment tonight. And the girl was like, no. Like, I don't want to do tonight. Like, let me come in tomorrow, and then, I'll get my affairs in order and I'll show up. Well, in the meantime, he had recorded, this is why I'm not saying who it was. He had recorded the interaction between the doctor, his sister, and himself. And he asked some very amazing questions because he's been steeped in the holistic thing with the whole treatments with like his kids and stuff. They have their own health issues that they've been battling and fighting and succeeding with. And so he had the ability, he had the knowledge to ask the right questions, and these doctors couldn't answer the questions. So he sent over the audio recording to me, and I listened to the whole thing like this. He's not once confirming anything, any type of actual diagnosis or confirmation that there's cancer. He is suspecting that there is cancer. There is no cancer. There is no lesions. There is no this. There is no that. There is no metastasis. It just basically says, hey, the liver's inflamed. And so I went to him like, listen, brother, like, this isn't something that I would suggest for her to do. Like I would suggest for you to go and get a second opinion. And this is very important for you. So if you get a diagnosis, a cancer diagnosis, you don't have to accept it. Go somewhere else. Don't tell them about your diagnosis. Don't, because then you're just leading them. Because then again, as soon as you admit that you have cancer, you put this gigantic price tag on you. Don't do that. Right? So go somewhere else. Say, hey, I'm having these health problems. Can you run these things? I'm suspicious it might be cancer, but like, what do you think? And they'll go through and they'll run their own analysis. And sometimes, yes, your medical records will be shared between doctors, but still, they're like, hey, I'm trying to look for a second opinion. What do you think? Right? So they went back the next day, and lo and behold, no cancer was found. No cancer was confirmed. So she didn't have to do chemo. She didn't have to do a radiation. She didn't have to get her affairs in order. She didn't have to do any of that. Right? So they're so quick to slap that diagnosis on you. And then to me, my thought process is like, well, your success rate for cancer treatment in American Medical Association is absolutely abysmal. It's disgusting how terrible the success rate is, especially for how much it costs for you to get next to no results. Okay. But if they get you in, right, and they say, hey, Susie has breast cancer. Let's get it. Let's take off the breast. Let's take this off. Let's do this. And then they rescan. They're like, oh, great. No cancer. Yay. We succeeded. You now just padded your stats, right? You padded your stats. So it means you lied about the cancer diagnosis. And of course, when you retest it or you rescan, you're like, oh, the cancer is gone. So this was another one in a success books. Bullshit. No, it's not. Get that diagnosis. And for you as patients, get that second opinion. Okay. But what happens is we're so fearful in this, and that if a doctor tells us that this is going to kill us in 3 months and we believe it, hook, line, and sinker, I've spoke about this before, your body will rewire itself to die in 3 months or 4 months or 5 or 6 months, whatever the doctor tells you. If you believe it, and Joe Dispenza talks about this, Dr. Joe talks about this extensively, where if you feel an emotion, you have the words and you have it and you feel it and you see yourself, oh my gosh, I'm going to die in 4 months. Oh, and I'm going to cancel clear that because I don't see myself doing it. I see myself thriving and surviving and living and being blessed. If you believe that, your body will accept that as truth, and your subconscious mind will start wiring you to die. Whether you do have cancer or not, it will wire you to die. So to empower you, right? So to throw power back to you, which is what I'm all about, is we have to understand, hey, what did I do to myself? What decisions did I make that I should not have made that led me to this diagnosis, right? Because 1 out of 3 people getting cancer, then pretty much all of us are walking around precancerous, right? Pre just means before. So if we're just doing things, we're living a toxic lifestyle, and we're living a stressful life, and we're not sleeping, we're eating horrible food, and we're not exercising, and we're not breathing fresh air, and we're in a moldy environment, we're constantly poisoning ourselves with everything around us, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get diagnosed with cancer, and that rate of cancer is going to continue to increase time and time again, which is going to mean more and more money for the pharmaceutical industry, which is not exactly where you want your money to go. Okay, so let's dive into this stuff a little bit more. But when we talk about cancer cells, remember, number one, it is a normal adaptation to turn into a cancer cell. A healthy cell to a cancer cell is normal. It's a survival mode. Just like if you're hot, you sweat, and the air cools you, it is a survival thing. Your body adapts to the environment that it's in. If you're cold, you shiver. What does that do? That shivering contracts fine motor movements, and your muscles are moving, and it's generating heat under the surface of the skin. It keeps you warm. Okay? It's designed to keep you alive. Okay? And your doctor should be like, well, oh shoot, before we do chemo and radiation, let's do a lifestyle evaluation to figure out what got you here. Not, hey, did your parents have freaking cancer? That doesn't mean shit. Okay, hopefully you know that at this point, if your parents had cancer, it doesn't mean you're going to have cancer. If your parents had cancer and you live the same exact lifestyle, the same exact 9 to 5, hey, I run the family business. My dad had prostate cancer at 50 and I'm 40 and I'm taking over the business now, and I eat the same way he does and I stress the same way he does and I do the same thing he does. Well, guess what? Yeah, you're living his life. You're not living your life. You're living his. So history will then repeat itself and you'll get diagnosed with cancer, and then that'll pad your stats. Like, well, my dad had it, so I guess this is what I have to do, or this is what my dad did, so I'm just going to have to do this. And then there's so much peer pressure from the outside to conform to the medical model that if you step outside of it, you're going to get bombarded with stressful input from other people, right? Your friends, your family, your loved ones are going to go ballistic on you. This is a reason why I couldn't watch Breaking Bad. Not that it's a good show for me to watch anyways. I try to protect what goes into my mind. But Breaking Bad, I think in the first 3 episodes or something like that, he got diagnosed with cancer and he was like, I'm going to go natural. And his family just berated him and just were like, you're an idiot. You're going to die. You're selfish and all this. I'm like, what the fudge? What? Right? So let's think outside the box. If we want to beat the stats and we don't want to get diagnosed with cancer, if we do get diagnosed with cancer, we want to survive and we want to thrive on the other side, you're going to need to listen to this podcast. I promise you, it's going to be packed with information. And I'm going to continue to do more and more on these episodes, because really, like when people are doing my protocols, they're doing an anti-cancer protocol. When you get your internal health healthy, when you get your lifestyle healthy, you avoid toxic relationships, toxic foods, toxic sleep patterns, you're going to be healthier. If you're healthier, then you're not going to be developing cancer, because there's no need for your body to adapt. right? Really, it's that simple. Like, it's so simple. And I still go back. I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but Steven Jaggers and myself, I know we messaged a lot on Instagram, but I can't remember if we talked about it in our episode. If we did or didn't, go back and listen to the interview I had with Dr. Steven Jaggers. Brilliant person, but like the stress and the anxiety and all this stuff that we're diagnosed with nowadays, it's all normal responses because our bodies are not meant to be in this state of pattern. It's not meant to sit on my butt for 4 hours a day, or now I'm going 5 hours, 6 hours a day, or it's not meant to do this. It's not meant to sit in front of a television. It's not meant to sit on a couch. It's not meant to eat horrible food. Everything that we feel and experience is an adaptation to our external environment. We have to understand that. It's normal. How do we change that? Change the environment, or change our perception of the environment. Is my environment a threat, or do I just perceive it as such? Deep room for thought on that. So let me pull up my ridiculously long amount of notes here so I can make sure I touch points on everything I need to go over. So again, if you have cancer, this is the time where you're like, oh my gosh, she's going to be combing through notes. If you know someone with cancer, if you got diagnosed with cancer or whatever, send this to them. They're going to need to know this information in order to survive on the other side. I promise you. And again, we're going to go into more of this. This episode is going to be more just on what is cancer. Next one's going to be going into breast cancer, what it is, what the receptor positives, all that stuff means, survival rates, etc., and what to do from a functional standpoint to try to help to get you to survive. Okay, so let's go into this. So we talked about what the cells do. The cells adapt. They adapt to the environment, and our body is wicked smart. So say, for example, okay, and this isn't to get political, you're talking about building a wall, but say you have a bunch of radical, crazy stuff happening within the body, and your body's like, this shit is out of control. What do I need to do to stop this? It builds a wall. It builds a fortress around the cancer cells. How brilliant of your body to do that. So it sequesters it. It says, hey, sweet, I got all of these things. They're packed in here nice and tight. They're not going anywhere. I win. And it gives you an opportunity. When you get diagnosed with a tumor, this is your opportunities to be like, oh, shoot, I am busted. I'm caught with my pants down. What do I do? Start analyzing your internal environment and your external environment. What have you been doing? Have you been drinking your face off for 40 years? Right? Have you had a toxic lifestyle? And this, if we go into the kid thing, we can go into the kid thing. And unfortunately, it sucks. It's not the kid's fault. It's typically going to be the parent's fault, the mom's fault. If it's a toxic environment, toxic gut. And then if you get hit with vaccines and you get hit with antibiotics and stuff, it just constantly pounds your body into the ground. It's like reverse epigenetics. You can be dealt the best set of genes, but if you just pour poison in your body right out of the gates, right from birth, then you're going to have a high risk for cancer. The other thing that a lot of people aren't talking about that I do is with IVF. And I'm sorry for the friends that go through IVF. I've had these conversations with them, but with IVF, you actually increase, I think it's a sevenfold increase in childhood cancers, reproductive cancer, eye cancer. I think it's like liver. Like, you can look up the statistics, the increased risk of cancer in children born from IVF. It's not good stats. And remember, sick people have sick kids. If you can't get pregnant, there's a reason you can't get pregnant. Find out that underlying cause. At the very least, fix the gut and make sure you don't have mold. And that's going to set you milestones ahead of it. Okay, but anyways, going back to the tumor. So if we wall off everything in these tumors and all the cells are just sequestered in here, our body wins. And that's an opportunity for us to be like, shoot, what do I need to do to change it? Now, you change that external environment, you change that internal environment, you change your perception of stressors. What's going to happen? Your body's not going to be as inflamed. If you're just stressed, your body gets inflamed. If you change your external and internal and your perception of the environment, your body will not be inflamed or won't be as inflamed. The less inflammation is there, then that means some of those cancer cells can revert back into healthy cells again. And a lot of people don't hear that. A lot of people don't know that. Cancer cells can turn into healthy cells just as healthy cells can turn into cancer cells. Your cells are designed to adapt and feed off fuel sources to survive in certain environments. Your body is wicked smart, right? That's why most people die with cancer and they don't die from cancer. Most people die from cancer treatment. And you'll understand why when I go into what the hell cancer treatment is. It's absolutely disgusting. I don't understand why they charge so much to put poison in your body. I can't. I'm just going to stutter over myself. I just can't understand it. All right. So you've got cancer cells, right? Step one, toxic lifestyle, toxic environment, years of neglect. All of a sudden, whoops, we get cancer cells. Whoops, we get cancer cells, and now we formulate ourselves a nice tumor, right? You get a tumor, you go to your doctor, and what's your doctor say? Not like, hey, let's run some tumor markers on you, see what your things are looking like. Let's take a look at your gut. Let's look at beta glucuronidase to see if we have any issues with estrogen catabolism or detoxification. Let's look at your detox pathways. They're not running an organic acids or metabolomics panel on you. They're not running a heavy metal test or mold toxin test. They don't give a shit. They're like, is this cancerous? They're like little kids, like, is it? It's like they're waiting for Christmas. Give me that Christmas present. Give me that big payday. Is it cancer? It's like, what is that game? I think of Family Guy when the wheel is spinning around, like, no whammy, no whammy, and boom. So anyways, you can tell I'm passionate about this stuff. It drives me crazy, so it gives me a ton of energy, a lot of passion. But you go in there, right, and you get, number one, a mammogram. Mammograms are known to smash tumors. Smash them. So if you have a toxic internal environment, okay, and then you take a freaking flat iron, a panini press, basically, and you smash the breast tissue and you put so much pressure down, right? No one's ever gotten a mammogram. I was like, that was a really enjoyable experience. I'm so excited to have my tits clamped. They clamp it down and they smash it. If they smash it, they pop it. If they pop it, what's going to happen? Those blood cells, right? Because tumors have their own, there's angiogenesis, so that it has their own blood supply that goes and actually fuels those tumor cells. That's why like the targeted therapies are like a newer wave of thing that they're trying to do. But anyways, so it does this, and what it does is then hops out into those bloodstreams. It goes, boom, let's get the hell away from this tumor. Somebody's trying to attack me over here. Let's go to another place and hide out. What's going to happen? Say you have 100 cancer cells. You pop a tumor, or better yet, you do a biopsy and rip a tumor apart, and those cancer cells are just coming out of there. Not all 100 of those cells, again, I'm making up numbers, but not 100 of those cells, 100% of them are going to go to the same location. They're going to get spread throughout the body, right? Every single area where you have inflammation, or every place you have a tumor, right, is going to be inflamed, but that inflammation doesn't just stay there. It gets recirculated through the body. So the rest of the body is going to be inflamed, which is going to be a beautiful fuel source. And those cancer cells have the ability to turn the environment in locally, create lactic acid around its own little cell, get more blood supply in there again, and start growing more tumors. So your medical diagnostic testing, which is bullshit, is causing an increased risk and spread of cancer if it is cancerous. So mammograms, don't do them. Do a thermography screening. If you're like, I'm too young, get a baseline thermography screening done. Do it, and you'll have an idea. Hey, 6 months, a year later, let's just do that on the regular. Yeah, insurance doesn't typically pay for them because insurance doesn't care if you're healthy or not. It cares if you pay the system, right? Thermography scanning is going to be crucial. Tumor marker testing is also crucial. You can go to, I believe it's directlabs.com, or if you're curious, send me a message. We run tumor marker panels all the time for people. Preventative. They're like, hey, I don't know if I've got cancer, but like, do you have a test for that? Yeah, we'll run our standard foundational test, but we'll run some extracurriculars. We'll run a tumor marker panel on you, see what we got. See what you have to do, right? So again, if you pop the tumor, if you poke the tumor, you're recirculating those cells because you never change that internal environment. Heaven forbid, you go the next step and you're like, oh, great. I'm going to go through and I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'm going to get both my breasts removed. I'm going to pull the Angelina Jolie over here. I'm destined for breast cancer because I got the BRCA gene mutations. Oh my gosh, which don't believe that bullcrap. So you get both of them taken off, and yes, does it decrease your risk of breast cancer? Yes, because it ripped the tissue away from the breast. But if an inflamed environment caused that cancer to grow, and you rip tissues from the body, right? And you're like, I got the cancer. Bullshit. You're not going to get this tumor that's going to come out perfectly preserved. You're like, I got it all. I am just the best. Pat myself on the back. You're going to have some haphazard mess of who knows what the hell as you're trying to rip it out. Okay, which means you have that inflamed environment. You have the blood supply to the breast, which is then going to get recirculated through the lymph, right? It's going to get recirculated throughout the body. More cancer cells are going to get redistributed. And then you're going to have scar tissue around the capsule where the breast actually was, right? Inflamed. So you have a high risk of breast cancer, technically breast cancer, but not really breast cancer because the breasts are gone. You're going to have a high rate of cancer around that scar tissue area. Now let's get even worse. Let's say you then say, well, I don't like not having breasts. I don't want a double mastectomy. I want a double mastectomy and an upgrade. I want to get put into a Lamborghini. I don't want to be put into a Prius. And you get yourself some implants. And so you have an inflamed environment, you have toxic implants. We know it's well documented, well researched that implants cause breast implant illness. And you create this perfect environment for more inflammation, more toxic environment, more sickness, more mental disability as well. And a lot of my patients who have had, not a lot, all of my patients who have had their implants removed, immediately they sleep better. Lack of sleep causes inflammation, causes insulin resistance, causes oxidative damage, causes cancer. They sleep better. They breathe better. More oxygen, more life force, right? You're able to breathe more oxygen. You're going to be more alkaline. You're going to be more oxygenated versus more lactic acid. Lactic acid is a lack of oxygen, right? So just in those two, better brain function. So the brain's able to send better signals. It's just, you name it. And the body can heal better. But then you put those things in there, right? And what's going to happen? Maybe you're good for now, but the rate of that infection or rate of that cancer coming back, it's not going to be breast this time. It's going to be somewhere else, right? Because how many times you don't have somebody who gets chemotherapy and radiation or cancer treatment, and in 5 years, it goes back to the same exact spot. Okay. Sometimes, yes. More often than not, if it came back to the same spot, it's going to be found in 4, 5, 6 other areas within the body because blood is carried everywhere in the body. Okay. There's no way to put like little dams to say like, oh, hey, like just, if you're going to develop cancer again, let's put this right here to make sure the cells stay right here so that we can just, worry about that one spot. No, your body's going to do what it needs to survive. Okay. So diagnostically speaking, doing mammograms, doing screenings like this are some of the worst things that you can do to see if you have cancer. Do a thermography screening. Men can do thermography screenings as well. You can do full body scans. And I would say, why the hell not? See if you have any inflammations coming from the brain, from the mouth, right? Mouth has a huge risk of cancer. If you have infections, if we have inflamed lymph that's getting carried to the thyroid or getting carried down into the breast tissue. We can see these things on thermography screening. This thermography screening is looking at heat measurements, heat readings. Cancer creates heat. So we have an abnormal heat signature. Cells are replicating fast, more cell motion, more energy being created, more heat being created. Therefore, it's able to be picked up on a scan. So it's such a better idea to do that and do a tumor scan than do any other form of medically diagnostic testing. I'm going to stand by that. You can hate me if you want to. I really don't care because the point of this is to make people change, to make people be healthy and survive and not be lied to that they don't have cancer anymore. Because I hate that bell. I just want to break that damn bell. I just do. Okay. Another thing on top, they tell you to eat shit food. If they cared about you at all, we've known Dr. Warburg back, I think it was in the 80s, found out sugar feeds cancer. Fucking simple. So simple. Sugar feeds cancer. And then they're saying, hey, you can eat whatever you want. Go out to McDonald's, slam some cheeseburgers, go eat some Frosties, go have this ice cream. If they truly cared about you, they would say, whatever you do, stay away from those foods. But they don't because they do not care. Get that into your head. It's massively important. They don't care. They don't care. They do not care at all. They don't. Moving on. So, how does cancer occur? I think we addressed this quite sufficiently. So we can have stress, right? So traumatic stress, emotional stress, relational stress, work stress, the external stress. We can have biotoxin stress, heavy metals, mold toxicity. We can have internal infections. We can have damaged organs due to medications. Medications are going to cause cancer. Vaccinations cause cancer, right? Very well documented, very well researched as well. So there's a lot of basically whatever the government tells us to do, and Lord knows anything that Lord Fauci tells us to do the opposite. The FDA is pretty ridiculous. But anyways, do kind of the opposite of what they tell us to do as Americans. And if you do that, you're going to be highly successful and highly healthy because they don't want us healthy. They want us to basically suck on the teeth of the pharmaceutical companies, the pharmaceutical industry, which makes a lot of people a lot of money. So that is one of the main reasons and ways that you can develop cancers due to stress. People holding on to negativity, negative thoughts, negative things that happen. I've had plenty of negative things that have happened in my life, negative people. in my life, horrific people that deserve some of the worst outcomes in their life. And I give it up to God. I'm like, listen, it's not for me to bring this down upon them. It's up to you. I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to move on from them because I can't harbor that negativity. I can't harbor those ill feelings for forever. Otherwise, it's just going to eat me up alive, no matter how right you are. But so that's one of those things where we have to make sure that we release those. And so a lot of these too is like with divorce and things. When you get divorced, you have like this ill taste or this bitter taste in your mouth that you hate your spouse, you hate this, you hate your kid, or whatever it might be. And this hatred just is a very low vibrating frequency, and low vibrating frequencies also result in cancer, diseases, developing a low resonating individual. So if we use like a lot of negative words, a lot of negative speech, a lot of negative thought, we're going to resonate that way. And therefore we're going to gravitate towards sickness and disease with our bodies. So be mindful of the way that you think. The way that you think is very powerful, and what you think you believe is true is going to happen to you. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but it kind of did. That's pretty cool. All right. So let's talk now about what are the rates of cancer here. So in 2023, we've had 1,958,310 new cases of cancer. 609,820 cancer deaths are projected to occur this year. So almost more than 500,000 people are going to die this year from quote unquote cancer. And this goes into why not just keep getting censored with this podcast? YouTube's going to hate me. Here we go. Just like people dying of COVID, right? People dying from cancer, people dying from COVID. I think we can put our hats on, maybe thinking caps, think a little bit on that, right? Because if we're just poisoning the individual time and time again, we're going to make them sicker and sicker. You're going to die from co-infections, comorbidities, right? If you came in, you were diabetic, or you had high blood pressure, you had metabolic syndrome or metabolic disease, right? And we're just highly toxic. You're in a moldy environment. You're in a hospital for a while. You get staph, you get MRSA, you get C. diff, you get one of these gut infections. You go home, you fall apart. You come back, you fall apart. And it's just kind of stacking on top of each other, right? And you're like, well, you were quote unquote cancer free, right? But you died. Like, well, you died from the treatment. Okay. And so I keep talking about treatment. I keep talking about treatment. So there's a lot of stuff that you can dig into with radiation and activation of cancer. That's what we talk about, like EMF, like radio wave frequencies and what they're able to do to us and to our internal environment. But they've done studies where in order to activate certain cancers within the body, you would want to get radiated. So we've got cell phones, we've got computers, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got all these things within us and beside us that can change us and alter us and activate cancer within us. And to me, I'll go tin hat on this and I'll say a lot of these cancers are going to be found in vaccinations. I know the polio vaccine had SV40 in it. SV40 was something that was causing cancer. It's causing harm within the body. So moving on from that. So we talked about the projections here. What we're told causes cancer, like we said, it's going to be your age, your culture, or your genes. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to say it's your genes. And they're not going to do anything to help you with the influencing of the genes, the epigenetic of the genes. You're just going to damage it further. Okay. So according to the World Health Organization too, this is something interesting because the World Health Organization says cancer is caused from physical carcinogens, UV and ionizing radiation. Physical carcinogens, chemo, radiation. So if cancer is caused from carcinogens, chemo is a carcinogen, right? It's going to come back and cause more cancer. Like, what the hell? Right? And so if we look at this, I'll go into this. Chemo, I'm going to go into this a little bit later. We're going to keep following along here. All right. So we'll say physical carcinogens, chemical carcinogens, asbestos, tobacco, alcohol, aflatoxin, which is a mold, and arsenic. Biological carcinogens, so infections from viruses, bacteria, and parasites. Do they ever do an in-depth stool analysis on cancer treatment? I'm here to tell you absolutely freaking not. I've worked with a lot of cancer patients and not a single one of them has had an in-depth screening done. Not one. Not a single freaking one of them. None. Nada. Zip. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. Never. Ever done. And I'm laughing because it's just sheer, it's comical. Right? They're saying what causes cancer, but when you go and get diagnostically tested, they're never looking at any of those scenarios. Not one. Anyways, what really happens with cancer? We talked about that. The body has to survive or else the entire thing is going to die. The fear is going to be a big proponent of this. And my goal is to dispel the fear, to bring light and shed light onto this topic so you don't fear it. The survival rate of cancer after 5 years is supposedly 67%. All right, supposedly. And the reason I say supposedly is just like I was talking about earlier. If for whatever reason, after 2 months after a cancer diagnosis, you die because of, I don't know, pneumonia or something, like, well, you didn't die from cancer, you died from pneumonia, but you died from the treatment of pneumonia, and therefore that's going to be deleted from the chance of, surviving cancer 5 years later. They don't detect that. They're like, oh, well, Susie, she died after 2 months. It didn't have to do with cancer. So let's pad that stat. Let's add another person into the cancer survivor statistic. They don't care. Okay. I stumbled across this website. It was cancer research in the UK. It's cancerresearchuk.org. And it's pretty neat. They talk more about real stuff on that site than the American Medical Association does. Okay, so why might cancer come back? The original treatment didn't get all of the tumor cells that were left behind, and they find a new tumor, they create a new tumor. Also, some cancer cells spread elsewhere in the body and grow a tumor there. So we kind of talked about that. After surgery, some cells are left behind, some cells spread. Chemo kills fast replicating cells and also destroys everything else around it. So 80% of the immune system's in the gut, so you'll be riddled with infections and have another gut infection. It's going to cause more inflammation. It's going to take place in the gut because chemo kills the gut. It goes after the fast replicating cells. That's why people lose their hair, and that's why guts are completely obliterated upon chemo and radiation, because cancer cells, hair cells, and gut cells rejuvenate or replenish the fastest. That's the areas that are going to be impacted, okay? Radiation kills good and bad cells. So it radiates everything, kills everything here, okay? There is a growing number as well of resistance to cancer treatment. So these cells are actually becoming too smart for our medical doctors because, again, we're fighting innate intelligence of the body, and man is not going to ever win that battle because they are not supporting the body. They are poisoning the body. So, of course, these cells are like, screw you, dude. I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to try to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hide over here. And therefore, I'm not going to be sensitive to your chemo and radiation treatment anymore. Good luck trying to find a new targeted therapy to try to kill me, because it's not going to work. Okay. And I'm saying this with a smile on my face because it's like, listen, like I've worked with multiple myeloma, non-Hodgkin's. I've worked with prostate cancer. I've worked with breast cancer. I've worked with like colon cancer. I've worked with a lot of different cancers, a lot of crazy cancers out there as well that people are like, oh no, they're going to die. And my 5-year, quote unquote survival rate has been 100% so far. Like that's just what it is. I've only had one person die under my care when they had prostate cancer, but it wasn't prostate cancer that killed them. It was an infection that they got due to falling and breaking a hip. And that doesn't, to me, it doesn't count. That the doctor did something that they weren't supposed to do, gave them the wrong medication, and they ended up dying because of that. So anyways, moving on. Recurrence rates. So it depends on this. So they're trying to pad the stats on recurrence rates. So for colon cancer, for stage 1, recurrence, I believe after 5 years is going to be 5%. Stage 2 is 12%. Stage 3 is 33% after 5 years. Glioblastoma is 100% recurrence rate after 5 years. Ovarian, 85% recurrence rate. Bladder, 30 to 54% recurrence rate, right? So we're saying like, oh my gosh, like if we have such a high recurrence rate, right? We want to be positive of this. What do? Well, number one, we don't poison the body. And I keep saying poison. If you don't know how chemo was developed, right? Then you don't exactly know what I'm talking about. We'll go with x-rays first. Being a chiropractor, like I remember being down in Houston, we would take x-rays on every single patient. Even my office in Pittsburgh, we would take x-rays on every single patient coming in. And I would have patients who would be freaking out about radiation exposure. Oh my gosh, radiation exposure is going to kill me. It's going to do this. It's going to poison me. I got to make sure I do this. I got to make sure I bind the radiation. I have to make sure I take antioxidants to do this. If you're going to take these x-rays, I don't want too many x-rays, right? So we have like this idea in our heads, like, oh my gosh, these are going to cause harm. Now, x-rays are like nothing. You get more radiation exposure from walking under a fluorescent light than you do a digital x-ray nowadays. But when they take this radiation that they use in cancer treatment, they're freaking just obliterating. It's like a freaking radiation laser trying to destroy everything in that area. And then we're surprised that it doesn't work, right? How did that even become a suggested therapy? Let's just blast them with something that we know is super harmful, right? I think it was the creator. I forget who created x-rays. Kept x-raying his hand and his fingers fell off. Don't quote me on it. I'm fairly confident the guy who created x-rays, his name wasn't Dr. X-ray, but whoever created x-rays, I'm fairly confident he kept projecting on his hand time and time and time again, and his fingers got decrepit and fell off. The other one, the bread and butter when it comes to cancer treatment is going to be chemotherapy. Like, oh my gosh, chemotherapy is the best thing for cancer. Ah, what brilliant people. Wonder where it came from. Pause, dramatic pause. Came from mustard gas. Mustard gas. Biological warfare. Mustard gas from World War I. Killed everybody. It was like an illegal thing that they did. They just freaking obliterated everybody. Just, mustard gas, kill them all. And now we're like, oh, you know what we could use that stuff for? We could use it on our people. We can put it in their bodies. That'd be a good idea. How did that become an idea for cancer treatment? Right? Because it kills the fastest replicating cells, and that's what they figured out. It killed people so quickly. They're like, well, if we use it on, I don't know, like we use it just, if we put it in the body, maybe it'll be better. What? No, if you get that stuff anywhere outside of the port, anywhere at all, you spill it anywhere, it is a biohazard. It is a known carcinogen. It is bad for your body. But the only place that it's safe, air quotes, is in this tube in your body. And I'm just gonna dump it there. Right? I've worked with patients post Agent Orange, post mustard gas. Okay? It's hard. It is super hard to get them healthy and well. Super hard. The psychological impact is very difficult because it was an inhalant. They inhaled it. Okay? This is going directly concentrated into the body with a specific intent to kill. And somebody thought it was a great idea to use. And then we wonder why we suck at curing cancer. We're terrible at this. Cancer, number one, cancer shouldn't even be a thing. It shouldn't. Right? Yes, it is a normal adaptation. We have to have it to survive, but cancer should not be a thing. It definitely shouldn't be something that 1 in 3 people get diagnosed with. No way in hell. No way in hell. No. No. Okay? Nada. But because our standard American society has continuously failed us medically, socially, spiritually, economically, politically, we have diversion in race. We have diversion in the LGBTQ 9647 9er 48 talking walkie-talkies. That's dividing us, constantly dividing, putting us into this divide as small a categories as we can. Divide and conquer. And so we're left in fear. We're left hopeless. We're left with no options. They've taken our money, right? They're trying to ban certain therapies that work. They kill people who come out and have research that tells you that it helps to kill cancer. We've had Dr. Sebi die. We've had a bunch of holistic naturopathic people die. Why? And they're not like, oh, hey, I was hit by a car. It was like, oh, he randomly died of a heart attack. Oh, he randomly, died swimming in his lap pool that he swam, for 50,000 years. Like, there are questionable deaths, and it happens every time somebody comes out and talks about this stuff. And I'm sure this episode is going to put a little bit of a target on my back, and my audience isn't quite large enough yet to really make a big splash in this, but I'm going to continue to fight. Why? Because this type of treatment is not going to work. It's not. This is why the ring the bell thing needs to go. Right? If you're going to do cancer treatment, radiation treatment, chemotherapy, at the very least, figure out why you developed that cancer to begin with. But it's like a wide receiver running a football route, right? So if I'm running a slant route, the last thing I want to do as a receiver is take a step back before I go forward. Okay, you say taking a step in a bucket, taking a step in a hole. Why? Because if I take a step back, that means the defense is going to have a little bit more of an idea of where I'm going to go. They're going to get closer. I'm going to run less time. My quarterback's dropping back over there. I'm not going to be in sync with the route. He's going to miss me. We can have an interception. We can have all this stuff that happens and takes place. Okay? When you do cancer treatment, you're taking a step back into a gigantic crater of a whole because you poisoned your body. You cannot poison your body back to health. So you have to measure that. You have to see, where are you post-treatment? How can I create a healthy environment now that I've had this treatment done? So if you're listening to this, or if you shared this with somebody and somebody cared enough to share with you and loved you enough to share this with you, and you're like, well, I'm 3 years cancer-free, my question to you would be like, what have you done in between year 1 and year 3 to prevent your cancer from coming back? History is bound to repeat itself if you continue to live the same environment or the same lifestyle in the same environment, eat the same food, stress the same way. If you're a night shift worker, right, and you're a nurse, you work a night shift, that's going to increase your risk of cancer, I think, by 80%. All right, that's one, like, I think it's 80%. So don't quote me on that, but it's still going to increase your risk of cancer. Right? What are you doing? What tests have you run? And if you tell me that you ran the test your oncologist told you to run, I'm going to tell you right now that is not going to do anything but line you up for radiation and cancer treatment again in 5-10 years from now. Cancer grows because it has to. It has to. If it doesn't, you will die. You will die. Right? If you dump so much poison in your body has to adapt to survive. The sooner we understand that as a nation, as soon as we understand that as a people, right, as humanity, we will start to put some of this stuff aside. And this is why it crushes my heart when kids sign up for cancer treatment. It crushes my heart. And then we have these large GoFundMes that are raising money for Susan G. Komen. You know, we do these ribbon things, or we raise money, GoFundMes for cancer treatment. I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to give you money to poison your kid. I'm not going to give you money to poison your adult body. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give them money. If you want some money afterwards, come to me afterwards. We'll talk about doing a protocol. I'll give you some free freaking tests if you want to run an analysis to see what's going on post-treatment so that you don't end up like another statistic with a 5-year recurrence. Okay, this is the stuff that drives me nuts. And so when October comes and November comes, and October is for breast cancer, and November is for prostate cancer, and prostate cancer is a fucking joke because prostate cancer doesn't kill you. Like, they've done there's so much research that prostate cancer doesn't do anything. It's just a pain in the ass, basically. And yeah, there are some forms of cancer like, okay, yeah, I went into lymph, and so we need to snip that out real quick. But, and again, surgery, there's a time and a place for that. If it's, you know, closing down your brain, spinal cord function, you're like, I can't breathe or I can't function because my life source is cut off, then yeah, remove the tumor, get as much out as you can, but you better, sure as shit, fix your diet and lifestyle because you need to do that. Otherwise, the cancer is going to come back. And that's why when we talk about brain cancer, the glioblastomas, there's a 100% recurrence rate in 5 years, right? You have to change your environment. And if you're not looking to change your environment, you're just looking to do more chemo and more radiation, it's going to come back. You're going to be pissed off. And you think that your spirit was broke the first time you got diagnosed with cancer, wait until you get it a second time. Your hope is going to be gone. Your determination is going to be gone. Your will is going to be gone. You're going to be so frustrated. It's going to be so unfortunate. Fix the cause. Your body will survive. Your body will thrive. You will be a completely different person. Use your cancer diagnosis as a pivot point to change your life. Yes, it's going to cost money, but guess what? You're going to survive, and you're going to live, and you're going to thrive. You know what else costs money? Chemotherapy, radiation, death, right? Your funeral, your headstone is going to cost money. So you better start doing something about it now. And I don't mean to end on such a negative tone, but this is why these months drive me fucking crazy. Because all they're doing is raising more scared commercials, more scared propaganda, more fear, more this, more that, more buzzwords, more money for people to fund just these toxic organizations, fund the pharmaceutical industries. It's disgusting what they have done with monopolizing cancer, when in reality, this shit should have been solved 1970s. So what, 30, 50 years ago or so? This should have been done. Cancer feeds off sugar? Cool. Let's cut sugar. Instead, they went after fats. But that's a topic for a different time, a different debate. So next episode, we're going to be diving deep on breast cancer. We're going to be diving into causes. We're going to be diving deep into the types, what they mean, the rates, the recurrence rates. We're going to talk about the severity of it. And then again, more things you can do in order to help to prevent this. Now, this is a lot longer of a podcast than I've done in a while, and it's just really hard to not talk so much about it as a heavily loaded topic. So I'm going to continue to raise this awareness. And in the meantime, as we're waiting for the next one to be released, for like, what test do I run? Run a GI map on you, so stool test. Run a Dutch Plus on you. Run an organic acids panel, oats panel, metabolomics panel, or just go into my lab shop and you can click on all these tests in there. My foundational tests are, again, going to be pre-cancer tests, making sure that you don't go down the path of cancer. So whether you have that diagnosis or not, now is the best time. Yesterday, 10 years ago, is the best time for you to test these things. The sooner you get ahead of it, the sooner you can have faith in yourself, the sooner you can heal your body, and the more you can walk with confidence and ease as you move forward in life. That being said, I'm out. Thank you for tuning in as always. And again, when it comes to your health, never settle for anything less than perfection.